I think there's some spurious comparisons there, but
Really?
I'm not letting this one go.
Maybe I'm just comparing them to. Well, I get Pantera. I mean, you can't really hear. You listen
Pantera's
to,
a huge one.
Listen
but
to
Pantera brought out Pantera were huge before Metallica even brought out the Black Album. So
yeah,
I mean,
but
that kind of
listen to the
stadium
thing,
rock argument.
Before I
really
came
work
out to it, I was listening to both of them as a sort of comparison. I listened to like a song off every album I own of Maiden and every album full stop of Metallica, and I listened to A Thing That Should Not Be, and it's so fucking heavy. Like Hatebreed have made a career out of doing that, and it's full on. Like, you know, it's no kind of we've taken this one nugget of them. It's like that is you. That is like fully Metallica. Right. Or thrash, even if you want to call it, because I know there's a bit of Slayer in there and whatever else. Yeah. But it was so massively, hugely influential that it took people who before probably would have listened to punk or had no. Again, this is another point of mine as well about the kind of their I don't really want to say image, but or adaptability, but their level of relativity, like relatability. I think Metallica just seem. I listen to Maiden and it's fun and everything, but I don't always necessarily. I mean, say not even necessarily. I don't ever really feel like they're speaking to me particularly. Where Metallica, a lot, you know, the early stuff especially, it's all about, you know, stuff that you can actually. I want my bands to sound like what I'm thinking. Maiden don't sound like what I'm thinking. All this Dungeons and Dragons, like.
You said Dungeons and Dragons. That was another classic trap. When have they ever sung about fucking Dungeons and Dragons?
All right, well, even like
they don't. The amount of times that they have sung about fucking dragon slaying and fire. People act like they sing like Dragon Force lyrics. It's ridiculous. Like
no,
they have sung about things like war and stuff. Like Passchendaele. Fucking hell, find me a more beautifully crafted and like meaningful and just emotionally driven war song than fucking Passchendaele. You're about to say Metallica song.
No,
I know you're not. I just gave you a fucking brilliant opportunity to do me over.
No, I'm not because I was going to say I haven't even heard that. I don't know what Passchendaele. What album is that on?
It's off Dance of Death.
Oh, I haven't heard it,
and it's
so
like
I can't.
9 minutes long or something, and it's amazing.
It's better than one.
I thought you got there in the end.
No. I mean, one was what popped into my head straight away.
It's not better than one, but I find I emotionally resonate more with that because of the kind of melodies within it and stuff, and the way they write their music just really speaks to me. And like with Maiden, Metallica have done it as well. Most noticeably for me with Fade to Black, which in my opinion is one of the most beautiful metal songs ever written. But even in Maiden, you know, Maiden don't do ballads in the same way that Metallica do ballads. But even when Maiden are doing just kind of straight out gung ho anthems, thing like Wasted Years, like with that there's something so like gorgeous in that riff, and it sounds stupid because people think Maiden is like gung ho, diddly din din din, fighting people, rah, swords, rah, and all that. But there's so much more to them than that. Like the way they craft their music is so beautiful sometimes, and it sounds stupid for people to say that, but it's true, and that is why they are such a fucking important band for so many people.
Yeah.
And people
I know people love them. Like people love to sing along to the melodies and everything. But for me, if I listen to something like Aces High, I just go, you know, this is fun. Yeah. Whereas Metallica, they really tapped into that. I'm just a fucking snotty punk kid playing in a shitty dive like on Kill 'Em All. Like you listen to those first 4 albums, even when they get to And Justice for All, when they're playing these long, like complicated, it still just feels like a bunch of kids just jamming in a room. And I feel like Iron Maiden always, apart from the first 2 albums, the first 2 Paul Di'Anno albums, and then this is another thing I was going to say, you talk about people going, you know, these ideas of preconceptions people have. This idea that Metallica sold out and made the Black Album and became a mainstream band, I think that's total bullshit. I think
no one. I think no one who's got
no one's got fucking common sense thinks that.
And I think the fact that, like you said, they still sell out stadiums around the world shows that the majority don't think that. But at the end of the day, I think there's a lot to be said for the fact, and whether it's a diss against metalheads or otherwise, there's a lot to be said for the fact that Maiden still feel like our band, and Metallica do still feel like our band when they're playing Master and Puppets of Full of Download, but when they're on Jules Holland with Lou Reed having a fucking nervous breakdown on stage, I'm watching that and I'm thinking, you're not in my world. You don't care about us. You know, and no band owes their fans anything necessarily.
No,
let's not forget that. And I'll take that for granted. And Metallica have done what they wanted, and that's cool.
Maybe as individuals, like I think, as individuals, you might look at them now and go, look at the rock star. But I think, like you say, when they're playing those songs, and that is all that really should matter to people. The fact that they still, it might be buried deep down underneath Lars's collection of fine art. I haven't even started talking about Lars or whatever, but. I mean, people say, you know, Metallica, the mainstream Metallica, like they're on Jules Holland, the mainstream. I don't think they ever pandered particularly to the mainstream. I don't think they pandered to the mainstream, but I do get the impression that they do sometimes seem a little bit embarrassed to be with metal. And if they're not pandering to the mainstream, I certainly think they're pandering to this idea that they're more than a metal band. And at their core, they're not more than a metal band. I know they did the kind of slightly stadium rock thing, but I think at least they're honest. I mean, did you really? I don't believe that. Iron Maiden go and listen to fucking Dark Throne when they get off stage. I don't even know. They talk about themselves like they're. I don't like the way Iron Maiden sort of. I heard that quote about Bruce Dickinson saying about Metallica, like, you know, they're supermodel band and everything. I mean, Iron Maiden are the band who got rid of their first singer because they wanted someone who could sing nice like melodies and have everyone else singing along so they could get a #1 album. If you want to talk about being cynical, I know it's not a cynical.
I don't think that's strictly true because the music changed with Bruce Dickinson. It's not like they just went, "Oh, we're all here, but we need like a really good looking singer who can just like come in and work."
But I think
on that note, actually, that's another like load of bollocks because Maiden were under immense pressure to cut their hair and become a punk band because that's what was massive when Maiden got together, and they went, "No." What? Fuck you, we're going to get in a guy with long hair that wails like a motherfucker.
Not by 1983. Not by 1983 when they were releasing Number of the Beast. That's not, punk wasn't massive then. What are you talking about?
What? No, when they got together. The rest of the band, Steve Harris and Nick and Burr and Dave Murray, and thanks for finishing off the main lineup. Getting too wound up here. The rest of the band were under pressure to all of them to match Paul Di'Anno because he looked like the quintessential trendy punk boy that was big. And they all turned around and went, "No, fuck you. We're going to keep our long hair. We're not going to do that shit that record labels want us to do, and we're going to actually do what we want to do." Yeah, there is no way they've pandered to shit.
No, I'm not. I mean, I just think it's. Saying that, what I said...
Certainly not compared to Metallica, who I don't even think have pandered to shit. But if you're going to compare the two bands, it's like, oh, really? There's no comparison there, man.
Well, no, I'm not making... I mean, the comparison really was, it's ridiculous that because Metallica made the Black Album, people go, oh, they did this and they did that, oh, they've changed their cut. You know, like when they fucking cut their hair and stuff. What a load of... You go, oh, your image, you fucking worry about your image. But they weren't the one. They just got a fucking haircut. And people gave them loads of shit for it. Yeah,
absolutely.
Exactly.
Bruce Dickinson got a haircut and no one cares.
Yeah, exactly. Bruce Dickinson. But I'm just thinking, again, Maiden get away with more stuff. If you were going to be... I wasn't saying that as in, oh, they only got Bruce Dickinson because they wanted someone who could actually sing so they could sell a lot of records. But to me, that is saying that is the equivalent of saying, oh, Metallica made the Black Album.
Well, the difference is that, like... normally I'm on the side I don't want to say against trolls because not everyone's trolling, but normally, like, you know, we all see the kind of Facebook and stuff that we have to deal with and the amount of like shitty comments we get and stuff from kind of very cynical people, but at the end of the day, being a metalhead is so much about being the underdog. It's about being the other. It's about sitting in a room full of people and looking at everyone and going, fuck you guys, I'm not like you. You don't get what I'm about. When I go home and listen to my albums, you don't know what the fuck that it's about. You don't understand it. You don't get it. You can never try to get it because it's ours, and we love the fact that it's ours, and that is why it's so fucking brilliant. And Metallica have not, to me, been a part of that for a long, long time.
And
I'm not blaming them for it, but they haven't, exactly. Especially compared to Maiden.
Because they've sold so many fucking records that they can't be. And it's almost like, good, be honest about the fact that
but they did make that leap, and I respect why they did it. I'm not saying they did it to grab at money or to grab at stuff, but they've still made that step. And since they've done it, there's been points where they've obviously kind of looked back and gone, "Oh shit, we need to be credible with metalheads again." Hence Saint Anger, hence Saint Anger being shit. Let's not step up for Saint Anger. People kind of go,
sticking up
"It's all right." I know you won't, but sometimes people kind of go, "No, it's not right. Let's not beat around the bush." It was a fucking rubbish album with a couple of work riffs in.
It's a rubbish album.
Magnetic is overall an average album with a couple of very good songs on, and I just think they are just so far away from what the heart of what being a metalhead is all about now. I don't feel like when they play like Download and Sonic 3, I'm like, yeah, I get this is awesome, but they could get away with playing like Glastonbury or something, and that would be like a kind of like, oh yes, we're going to go see Metallica, how droll. And Maiden would just never make that gap.
That's not their fault.
It's not their fault, but it's still,
it just goes
why
to me, that goes to show how good songs they've... Because it's not like that if they played Glastonbury, they wouldn't go, oh, we better just play, Until It Sleeps, and we better just play Sad But True and Nothing Else Matters and The Unforgiven, and then go. They'd still play Seek and Destroy.
Yeah,
they'd still play The Four Horsemen. They wouldn't they've never pandered. If they got offered to play Glastonbury, why the fuck shouldn't they play Glastonbury? Why shouldn't they play Glastonbury? If they got asked to play Glastonbury and they turn it down on the basis of they're a metal band, that's a ridiculous reason to turn it down.
No, of course. But what I'm saying is, when they don't pander to pressure, we get a Lou Reed album. When they do pander to pressure, we get Saint Anger. So, I mean, when they do what they want to do, they come out with fucking bollocks. And when they do what they think everyone else wants them to do, they can't do it anymore because they've lost that. They've lost that spark that made them a great metal band. They haven't lost that spark that made them a great band.
Well,
I think they could still have a great band in them if they got the right producer in. But the fact that they're not is, again, just shows that they don't know what they're doing.
You think
and I'm saying this as a fan. I want them to be great.
I know
again.
you want them to be great, and I'm sure people wanted Iron Maiden to be great, and they didn't believe it was going to happen during the 90s. So it's not like they're the only ones. You know what I mean?
Of course not.
It's not like we're
but
talking about
Metallica's kind of exceptional because they're so big, and even in their heyday, Maiden were never even when they got number one album, they were still the band that people kind of see on stage with their long hair and they're just looking weird, and people just going, what the fuck is this about? And Metallica are just so polished now. And I know Maiden are polished. I'm not pretending like there's this fine, broad, gritty punk band. They're one of the most polished, mechanised, machine-like touring products in the world. Just as much as Metallica are. I wouldn't put either of them above the other on that front. But Maiden just still feel like, as much as they got a gung-ho attitude, like they still feel like they're just ours. I still feel like they're my band. And I just don't feel like Metallica are. They don't resonate with me. And I know they do resonate with people historically, but I just don't feel like they kind of mean as much anymore. They just don't seem to know, like they don't know what they're doing. And they're just like, I just don't feel like they are as of our world. And I don't think they sum up now. I'm not talking about arguably, this is me really being generous, no band could have has summed up what's great about metal as on Ride the Lightning. Like, I would actually accept somebody, even if I don't agree with it, saying that is that defines what's great about metal. But in 2012, and for 2 decades, in my opinion, and I don't think that's a particularly confrontational opinion, I just don't think I just don't feel it anymore.
That's
I don't think they do either.
If you feel like that, I mean, I know you don't like Load. I'm still going to say...
I don't dislike Load.
I'm going to say back to Load.
But who outside of the people that grew up with it love that album?
I don't know. I mean, who knows?
There are shit tons of Maiden fans, old and new. In fact, I don't know a single Maiden fan that doesn't think Brave New World is an incredible album. And I know there's the nostalgia thing because Bruce came back.
Yeah. I think they might have. Okay,
but that stood the test of time.
Do you know what? I've not really listened to it very much, so I'm not going to... I know, having been to see Iron Maiden last year on that tour and then playing a lot of the new stuff, which I just didn't know... maybe I should listen to it more but I just... No,
I can appreciate that, but I think if Metallica did a gig where they played mostly, put it this way, if they played mostly stuff off Lulu, Saint Anger and Death Magnetic, I mean, they'd have people walking out. And Metallica are able to put on a more of a crowd-pleasing set because at the end of the day they've got less albums, and that's just a fact. It
is a fact.
That's not a knock on them or a plus point to Maiden, but it's going to be easier to put on a crowd pleasing set when you know for a fact that you can get 2 songs off every album in no problem. Maiden can't even do that. Maiden can't play a set and play 2 songs off every album. It's just not going to happen. Unless they do a 3-hour set, it's barely possible.
I would say though, in terms of I know it's different now, but if you want to, at some point, we're going to have to address the fact that it's not all about the last 10 years. Talking about Metallica and just talking about what's happened in the last 10 years, I think is a little bit unfair. It's a bit like sort of going Paul McCartney shit because I don't like Wings.
I would give you that comparison.
So the first 4, I'm going to say 5. In fact, I would like to say 6, but I know people get grumpy. Silly. But especially the first 4 Metallica albums, if you're talking about pure metal albums, they are totally unsurpassed. There's not a weak moment. In the 80s, this is when both of them really were at their kind of commercial, and for me, I'm going to say their commercial and their artistic peaks.
What, Metallica?
Both of them.
Yeah. I mean, I bang on about the new albums all the time, but I wouldn't say that Brave New World is better than Seventh Son. I don't think very many people would think that seriously.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying that.
I mean, there's just not a weak moment on any of those first 4 Metallica albums. And then you look at something like Peace of Mind, which I've got, and I think it's all right. You can't really compete. You just can't compete with those 80s Metallica albums. I mean, that's why.
I think you can.
That's why.
I don't think there's a bad moment on the Maiden debut. I don't think there's a very script made on the Killers. Number of the Beast speaks for itself. Power Slave is an absolute classic. Seventh Son is wall to wall incredible. Somewhere in Time probably has maybe 2 all right tracks on it.
Peace of Mind.
Peace of Mind, I would say
Peace
overall
better
has
than Ride the Lightning.
No. But
okay. Well,
but it's better than certainly Load, Reload. I think it's better than the Black Album. I know loads of people disagree with me on that. But this is the reason I like Maiden more.
I know it is.
I didn't grow up with.
That is insanity that you think Peace of Mind is better than the Black Album. Can I just say that is mad?
That probably is a bit too far.
That is mental.
No, I listen to it more though. Okay, I won't go as far as say it is definitively better because that would probably be naive of me to think I'm not going to get my head kicked in by someone. But
you ain't getting your head kicked in by someone.
But at the end of the day, I've certainly listened to Peace of Mind more. I think the Black Album is a great album, and I think it will be. I'm bang up for seeing it performed in full at Download this year. It'll be amazing, but I don't think they're a million miles apart in terms of quality. I certainly don't think that if the Black Album is a certified bang-on classic, one of the greatest metal albums ever written, if that is an example of one of the greatest metal albums ever written, then Peace of Mind is right up there as well. But that's not even comparing it.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to really the first, I mean, I did say the first 4. If we're going to go from the 80s output, I think you're looking at not a single solitary second of those first 4 Metallica albums have a weak moment on it. Whereas Iron Maiden,
pushed to say I'd agree with that. But I think Maiden
they put more. My Maiden put more albums out.
Yeah, and I think you could say they certainly put at least 4 flawless albums out, plus a couple of great albums that, a couple of classic albums that didn't quite, attain flawless status. I think of the first 6 Maiden albums. So,
which are what? Self-titled Killers. Self-titled was my favourite one. That's
Number of the Beast.
Number of the Beast, yeah, is good, but it's not as good as Master of Puppets if you're going to go by their iconic album.
Well, then Peace of Mind, which we've kind of agreed. Number of the Beast is... Okay, Number of the Beast almost gets downed on these days because it's seen as the definitive Maiden album. But there's not a bad song on there.
It's not a bad song.
There's not even anything less than a fucking brilliant song on there, to be honest.
But...
From fucking...
Master of Puppets.
No, but then I could just go, Seventh Son.
Yeah, but Justice for All, better, isn't it?
Yeah, but Power Slave.
Yeah, and Power Slave's great.
To me,
album.
Power Slave is and anyone that thinks that you just say a Metallica album and go like that, because that is a fucking flawless.
I was listening to Power Slave and it came up here, and I think they're good, but again, I just don't relate. Some like I said, Aces High. You put on Aces High, and I'm like, this is good and jaunty. This is my last point. It's a great song, but
it's one of the greatest metal songs ever written.
But
this is my
last point was going to be. I think we've fucking totally shot away any kind of.
I managed to loosely cover. I haven't covered James Hetfield's lyrics or Lars Ulrich yet, so I've still got quite a lot of ammo, and I've only covered about a quarter of Lulu.
I think this is kind of my finishing thing, really, which is Metallica are actually heavy. And Iron Maiden aren't. They're not heavy. Metallica are genuinely... You put on...
They're not heavy. They're not...
Kill 'Em All. And you go, in 2012, that still sounds contemporary and extreme and heavy. Iron Maiden, you put on their first album, you go, this sounds like a kind of 1980s heavy metal band. I don't think they've... I know you're going to go, they're still relevant, la la la. And
no, I wouldn't agree that they're not as heavy as Metallica. Metallica are a thrash band. Maiden is just a heavy metal band. So that's kind of a bit of a moot point to me. That's not really like, they're heavier. Well, yeah, of course they are.
But when I say
like me going, but I think you'll find Napalm Death more extreme than Metallica. So
yeah, but I don't mean that. I just mean
there's a distinctive step up in heaviness because it's that much. It's one thing to compare,
but it's still. But not
the heaviness is a fact of thrash metal.
Yeah, I know it is.
That's like you can't have a heavy metal band that's heavier than a thrash band. That just doesn't work.
Yeah, but all I'm saying in terms of heaviness is that today, in 2012, in 1981, Iron Maiden probably sounded really, really heavy, but it doesn't anymore. Kill 'Em All would have sounded really fucking heavy when it came out, and it still does. I still think they sound like metal hasn't.
I don't know if I'd say Kill 'Em All sounds heavy, but I'd say Master of Puppets and Ride the Lightning. I'll give you,
and Ride the Lightning definitely, and Justice for All totally sounds really heavy.
Blackened is a fucking heavy song.
I don't think like Metallica took what Iron Maiden did and they boosted it, and no one has ever since been able to top, in terms of a mainstream heavy metal band. No one's ever been able to top, like, in terms of ferocity and power, Metallica. It's in nearly 30 years. I don't think what they've done has been topped. And I think that is why people still think of Metallica as a contemporary metal band, and is why some people, i.e. me, think of Iron Maiden as that 90s band that were kind of a classic band, but not really anything to do with me.
That's fair enough. I will cancel that. And once again, I haven't put out the fact that James Hetfield has gone from one of the best lyricists in the game to the worst lyricist in the game.
Well, I mean, I don't really want to talk about Iron Maiden's lyrics because they don't really mean anything to me at all, from, like, in general, full stop.
Well, at the end of the day,
all right, fine.
Maiden lyrics have depth, and even now, like, the lyrics to Coming Home are just fucking heart-rendering, man. And the Talisman is just like when I say it's a story, I don't mean it's a Dungeons and Dragons story, people. Before you get on that, it just dragged you in. Whereas James Hetfield was going frantic, tick, 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 tock, and suicide. I already died. It's like, okay. And I didn't even talk about Lars Ulrich. Again, people will go, "Oh, Lars Ulrich's such an easy target." Yeah, he is. He's an easy target. Where's Maiden's easy target in the band?
Well,
I'm sorry, but that's
Lars Ulrich might be. The thing is, like,
people go like, "Oh no, you're picking on Metallica, you're picking on this, you're picking on that." But yeah, they do it to themselves.
What exactly don't you like about Lars Ulrich? Because I would say this: I think Lars Ulrich may not be technically the best drummer in the world. He might even be a bit of a dick, but he has influenced more drummers than probably any drummer in a metal band in the last 20 years.
That's fucking... I would put that as equally contentious as the direct musical influence one. That's huge.
I know so many people who go, "Oh, I listen to Metallica and it made me want to do drums," because he writes...
First 4 albums, like, absolutely. Like, he did stuff which still you hear in modern bands today.
Well, even, you know...
But since then, he's done everything in his power to make them look like a bunch of wallies. And I don't hate Lars at all. Some people are proper like, "Fucking Lars killed this band, kill that cunt," and all that horrible stuff. I don't think like that. If I met the guy, I would... like turn into a quivering wreck.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day,
he's a bit of a knobhead. He's clearly like...
But again, he kind of surmises what it is that I said before about Metallica just not seeming to want to be part of our world, because he like going on record and saying, "I love Arctic Monkeys." Like, what are you talking about?
Well, what if he does, man? I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I don't know why.
But he said it, but he doesn't say it in a kind of like, "Yeah, I love Arctic Monkeys, that's cool, I love that." He did it in a kind of like, "Yeah, man, like it's really like up and coming band. They're like revolutionizing heavy music, man. It's like really fucking depthful and amazing."
Did he say that?
Yes. The quote was, he made it sound like he was being edgy and on the ball, and it was just like he tries way too hard to be cool. And Maiden have never given a shit about being cool. Like, people say about Metallica, "Oh yeah, they're a punk band, they just do what they want. Fuck you, we cut your hair, oh big whoop." At the end of the day, Maiden did not change a single fucking thing about the way they approach their music. I wouldn't say the music itself necessarily, but the way they approach their music, the way they present themselves, and the kind of band they are. They don't give a shit about being cool, they don't give a shit about fitting in with the crowd, and that is why they are a fucking heavy metal band. And Metallica, half a heavy metal band.
Oh,
in 2012.
In 2012.
Yeah.
I still think you go and see Metallica and you will have just as good a time as you'll go and see Iron Maiden. And I will
not debate that for a second.
I will stand next to you.
Metallica last year at Sonisphere,
yeah.
Was it last year? Was one of the best gigs I've been to in years. And Metallica at Reading, and that again, so I'm not, like I said, this is me kind of covering myself again. I'm not saying for a second there's nothing about Metallica that resonates with me, because when at Reading they played the first 3 Ride the Lightning songs in a row, I went fucking skits. I couldn't believe it. But in terms of what it is I love about metal, Metallica have spent too much time away from it all and too much pissing about and looking a bit directionless to really resonate. I mean,
I almost don't mind them not being like a metal band, because one, I would like them to be honest. So you say Iron Maiden haven't changed anything about themselves and gone, "Fuck you, we've done what we want." But then you could say about Metallica, just because they got their haircut,
they have, yeah, definitely,
they've done what they want.
But I do think they haven't recently. I don't think they have recently. That's the thing. I think they did, and then they realised that it cocked up with a lot of metal fans, and I think St. Angus screams of desperation, and Death Magnetic screams of... Well, if you just
need to watch some kind of monster to see that they're in a bad place, and that's them as individuals and not so much as a band, although it obviously impacted on what happened to them as a band.
And I rate that thing coming out. A lot of people slagged them off for that. I don't have a problem with them doing that. I thought it was awesome, awesome insight into a big metal band.
honest about it. And you know, if they're a band,
in fact, I'd more after Saint Anger, when I was like, "Fuck me, what are they doing?" That came out, and I got a bit more respect back for them. Not that they need my respect. I don't consider myself someone whose respect demands to be earned. Like some kind of metal fans, let's be honest, do seem to have the attitude of. But I mean, they just don't. What I love about metal is not what Metallica have become, and it's not like I'm just slagging off the last couple of years. We're talking about half their career. So
yeah, well, I mean, I think the thing is about this whole argument really is that, again, like I said, you obviously have got into, they're like your favourite band, and I can see all the things you're saying about Metallica for the last 10 years, and I guess it just doesn't 15 years. And the reason it doesn't really bother me that much is because I just think those first few albums speak for themselves, and if you got to let them go, if you either let it go or don't moan about it.
That's fair enough. I will allow that. I think Maiden they're still my boys, and they're still metal's boys. I feel like Maiden are represented for metal.
Well, yeah, and I kind of like, I mean, actually, this is something I was going to say, like, I don't really mind Metallica not being a metal band and whatever, because there are certain things about the image of a traditional heavy metal band that maybe from growing up in the 90s and liking punk more than I like metal, like when I was growing up, that kind of put my back up, and metal was kind of a dirty word, and I still sometimes think, like, I wish those things that make metal fans look a little bit stupid and a bit over the top, Metallica don't really indulge in that, whereas I think Iron Maiden do, and it almost makes you go, oh man, really, we still doing this?
Well, that kind of sneery attitude is exactly what I think sucks about people's attitude to metal, and if Maiden are happy to be a part of that,
it's not a sneery attitude to what sucks about metal. It's about kind of going, I would like to see a little bit more progression and more, I mean, this isn't at Iron Maiden saying I'd like to see more transparency and honesty, because I think they obviously do whatever they want, but I just mean in metal people, I think you get transparency with Metallica because they're not, you say, oh, then they're doing this and they're doing that, but they're obviously not afraid to go, you know, fuck you, who cares about, like, as much as you go, this is metal and this is what we are and we're proud to be a metal this and a metal band and heavy metal rules and all that sort of thing. I don't think you should be shackled by the idea. And absolutely I think not. Metal, like bands, there are a lot of bands who I consider metal, and I consider myself a big metal fan, but a band like Faith No More, they didn't allow themselves to be shackled by this kind of small-minded parameters of what metal could be, and Iron Maiden were almost like, when I was growing up, the poster boys for that kind of like regressive thinking in what heavy metal was. And I kind of liked Metallica, and I don't think I would have gotten into Metallica, just like I didn't get into Iron Maiden, had Metallica have just stayed as these kind of mulleted, black t-shirt wearing, booze drinking sort of Neanderthals.
Could you just describe, like, hold on, didn't you just like ruin early Metallica for everyone?
No, I didn't ruin early Metallica for everyone, but I just think, you know, like when you get to a certain age, I don't say you should grow up, because I don't think you should really. In fact, quite the opposite. I think you should
absolutely not
try and keep that.
I just think it's at the end of the day, I know you grew up in the 90s, and again, a lot of it does have to do with a couple of years and stuff, but it's just that thing of, you know, Pantera and 90s Metallica kind of. When people say Metallica aren't cool, they're only not cool by metal standards. In the grand scheme of things, Pantera and Metallica made metal cool, and that's fine with me. But when was metal ever about being cool?
No, it's not about being cool, but it's about doing whatever you want to do. I mean, I guess that's what punk rock is, isn't it? Really, it's about doing whatever. If you want to do an album with Lou Reed, you do it. If you want to do an album,
and I appreciate that. I will never ever. Have a go at Metallica doing what they want to do. It's just
I don't really want to give you the point of going, oh, Iron Maiden stayed true to themselves and they've just gone, fuck it, we're going to do whatever we want, because I kind of feel like Metallica have. I know you say, oh, they've been sidetracked or whatever. It must be difficult for them.
My heart bleeds.
To not. Well, no, it must be like hard for the decision making process, because they're obviously. Iron Maiden kind of look like a gang, whereas Metallica now, you after watching Some Kind of Monster, you can see that they are four quite disparate individuals with different influences. And
we say four. Rob Trujillo.
No one
cares.
Oh, come on, man.
Does anyone ever talk about Kurt Hammett? I never hear anyone talk about Kurt Hammett, and I think he's an incredible guitarist.
Kurt Hammett's incredible. Well, I mean, I was going to say about like my earlier thing about Cliff Burton, that goes to show kind of how brilliant they are when people just talk about Hetfield and Ulrich, when they're all they're all fucking brilliant, really.
I mean, that's another point. I was going to make a point about the lineup and the fact that they've got a bassist that no one cares about. But
I don't think that's...
Oh, it is. When have you ever heard someone go, fucking hell, the bass on Death Magnetic was brilliant? Like,
Rob Chillo's a fucking brilliant bass player.
He's one of the greatest bassists.
Yeah.
I was going to say of the 90s then, that sounded really sneery, but certainly of that era of bands, he was amazing.
Yeah.
When he was with Ozzy's band, I thought that was the fucking tightest Ozzy's band has ever been.
Yeah.
But in Metallica, it was just like, Poison Chalice, I suppose, in a lot of ways. That's not his fault. But again, it's just like, no one cares. Like, Rod Trio's doing his crab walk again. Great. Talking about looking silly, by the way, which you kind of brought up. Rod Trio doing a crab walk. Fuck it. We haven't got time for questions.
All right, okay, two words. Yannick Gers.
I take no responsibility for Iron Maiden having Yannick Gers. If we've got Adrian Smith back, so that balances out.
Okay.
If Metallica get Newsted back, it balances out with Rob Trio.
I love Jason Newsted.
I love Jason Newsted. He's
fucking
amazing.
Brilliant. But anyway, look, I mean, I feel like you've just talked a lot, but you clearly...
This is rolling towards a fairly amiable finish, which you're threatening not to do.
Yeah, because I don't really want to argue particularly. I just think, for me, like we said at the top, both bands are brilliant.
I'll tell you what.
I think you've caught Metallica at a time where post Lulu, everyone's kind of on their back and they're quite an easy target. But I just think...
Well, that's their own fault.
Yeah, well...
I don't take they're an easy target thing. If you're making yourself an easy... It's not like they're a fucking disabled child. It's Metallica. It's not like it's like... I'll leave the poor little Metallica alone. I do feel that way about Lars sometimes, but generally speaking...
No,
I've got a question.
Yeah, go on.
That has come. We'll do one question, right? I'll do two questions. One reason is because Mark Illington on our Facebook says we've gone way over time, but fuck it.
Have we?
Way over time. We're about half an hour over time.
Sure.
Mark Illington on our Facebook says, have you got your Nando's black card yet?
No.
We let this drop and I want to bring it back up.
Nando's.
We'll let you sponsor us. I don't know if I can legally say that. I don't know if we can let you sponsor us, but Steve will let you sponsor him if we get a Nando's black card.
Sponsor me.
And Stephen Dunn says, which album would you choose by Metallica or Maiden to see performed in its entirety? I'll give you Metallica, I'll do Maiden.
I load.
Fuck off! Fuck off. I'll do Brave New World. There. See you next week, folks.
Bye.
Bye.